So this assembly is a mixture of Year 13 students and Year 13 parents and our Key Stage 5 team, including the Key Stage 5 tutors, and many of them are in the Zoom as well.
It is
and
lovely.
Our head teacher.
It's lovely to see everybody this morning. Again, as Ms. Remington said, thank you. Just to let you know, we are recording this session just for parents and students who aren't able to access it today. It will only record the people who are speaking, so don't worry about that. You are welcome to keep your video on if you wish to throughout the session. Please can we ask you to make sure that you stay muted, however, because it does create some feedback and some noise when people are talking. So several of us are going to talk to you today. I'm going to hand over to Mr. John to start off in a second. If you do have any questions during the assembly this morning, you can use the chat function to get in touch with us. If you hover your cursor over your screen, you'll see the chat come up in the bottom of the screen. It's a little speech bubble. You can then message me as the host, and then I can then ask your questions on to whoever is the most relevant person. If you do have any more specific questions that are related to a particular student or a particular circumstance, please feel free to email us as always. Again, just a final welcome. And now we're all here. I'd like to hand over to Mr. John, please.
Hello, good morning, everybody. It's really lovely to see you and welcome to this morning's presentation. We don't have anything particular, of course, to us in a sense, because we haven't been given any information beyond that which you've heard in the news. So I'm not going to be able to give you a detailed sort of step-by-step guide this morning about precisely how your outcomes are going to be reached in the summer. But we have a responsibility, don't we, to attempt to help you to manage the anxiety that you will doubtless and understandably be feeling about the way that the pandemic has had an impact already on your education, and particularly your sixth form education, and to try to give you some reassurance about how the process over the next few months is going to work, our sense of confidence about really whatever happens, we're going to be able to do justice to what you've done, to your potential, to your very considerable skills and that you've already been able to show us, and to hopefully support families as well. And it's lovely to see so many of them on the call to be able to help you to manage that anxiety as well. So that's what we're going to intend to do today. Year 13, if I was sitting in your shoes today, I would be feeling anxious for three reasons. The first is that perhaps I had worked really hard over the last few months, the year and a half, and I would have felt that in spite of all of that, that my opportunity to shine had been taken away from, that I wouldn't have that opportunity to really show off my potential. And I really understand that perspective. I'd also be feeling anxious were I someone who had left it quite late and had decided that I was going to pull my finger out the bag, you know, sort of at Christmas time of year 13 and really start to work where there was plenty of time to work for the exams. But now you feel that you're quite a long behind and that those opportunities to really show yourself have been really pulled away from you. And third reason I would probably feel anxious is if I was there and I thought that perhaps in one subject, or perhaps it was a relationship with someone in one of the schools where I was studying, that someone somewhere along the line didn't really get me and didn't really have a clear view about what it was I was able to achieve. And I want you to, when reflecting on that and understanding that you will feel anxious about those things, reflect and make a distinction in your mind between that there is to your actual grades that you will receive as the A's, B's, the pass merits, distinctions, whatever it is that you could receive in August when the results come out, and the threat to your actual education and what happens to you in terms of impact on your long-term development academically, the sort of maturing process that goes on through year 13. And on the first of those things, I want to give you lots of reassurance. it is a relatively easy process for a school to go through, to take a set of students who know very well, in spite of what happened to you during year 12, we do know you well, to look at who you are, what you've done to date, what you've done in the past, and to extrapolate from that a projected set of results that will enable you to progress on to the next stage. That is a relatively easy task to do. And the government hasn't said very much, but it had already said previously that there would be, in their word, a generous allocation of results there in whatever the circumstances, because of what's been happening across the country. So I don't think that you need to worry very, very much about what the actual grades are going to look like in the summer, because what they'll do is they'll look like a set of our year 13 A-level outcomes, which will be good because our results are good, and your results particularly are a very strong year group. You've got produced a lot of good work, and we would expect you to have strong outcomes. And if it's given to us to have a lot of authority, as it appears to be the case, over what it is that you're given, they will be totally generated within our professional judgments, and obviously they'll be completely honestly, but equally it will give a really good opportunity to have the right numbers, the right grades, to be able to take you forward into the next stage of your career. And I just don't feel, as the person who'll be signing off on those grades, any anxiety that front. I do feel more anxiety about is the impact for each of you on your actual academic progress over the next period of time, because you had a wrecking ball through year 12 and that's very difficult for you, and now you've got, just at the moment when really those folders are beginning to come together, when the learning is beginning to sort of congeal in your mind, and your learning habits and that maturing that happens at this crucial point of year 13 was just beginning to get going, you've suddenly had to go off into this different type of learning. And so for that reason, I want you to think less about, well, what grade am I going to get, because we know we're going to be supported through UCAS, etc., to get on into whatever university or apprenticeship or next step that you want to go to. Instead, what I want you to be concerned about is, will the impact of this period of time be on me when I'm in the second year of university? And in order to get you to think about what that might be like, I'd like you to think back to when you joined the secondary school you joined, when you came in at year 7, and what would have been the impact on you then had you missed a lot of year 5 and some of year 6. Have a think about how that would have affected you. Well, you might think that in the long run, it probably wouldn't have affected you that much. But I think you can imagine that probably your transition to secondary school at that stage would have been a little bit more complex, and maybe it would have taken you years before being able to fully catch up. And the steps that you take now in your learning, in keeping going, in carrying on education, as opposed to worrying about the grades, is the thing that I think is most important. Look, all sorts of things happen to students through their school careers, and we see thousands of students through across a career. People break their legs, people move country, people have a bereavement, all sorts of things happen, and this is just an occasion where it's happened to every single person all at the same time. And so what we need to do collectively is to attempt to mitigate the impact of that. And so we need to think about how that impacts on the actual grade you'll get. If you listen to what I said at the beginning of my talk, I suggested to you that in a sense you don't need to worry about that, because in a sense there's a sense of inevitability about the grades that students will get. But we all know that that is only up to a point true, and that's there as a reassurance, as a baseline for you. You do still have, and the government announces how its process is going to work, considerable agency over the grades that you will be given. And I want to just give you a sort of worked example of that. I want you to imagine a student who is currently being given C grades in their essays or in their pieces of work that they're being given. But it's generally assumed by the class teacher through the reports that have been given, in the discussions that have been had, in the parents' meetings that have been had, it's generally assumed that the most likely grade for that student really is around a B. Now, the teacher won't have finalised that grade yet, and still less the school have finally finalised that grade. And yet that's probably the assumption between you. But it isn't outside of the possibility that an A grade would also be possible. Let's say it's 50% likely that you get a B grade and 30% likely that they get an A grade. There is nothing that you can do now to stop the teacher thinking that you are 50% likely to get an a B grade. But what you can do is start to persuade them, or at least a B grade. What you can do through work that you do over the weeks of the lockdown is start to persuade them that actually that 50-30 split, that probability where it was probably more likely of a B than an A, becomes more likely to become an A grade. So I don't think you can do anything by anything that comes about that impacts negatively on your work as a result of the pandemic to reduce the teacher's knowledge that you're capable of a B grade, and that would probably be the fairest possible outcome for you. But you can and still have the opportunity to show them that an A grade is within your grasp, and that extra spurt going to happen during February and March was still a reality. So I hope that that feels helpful as a way of looking at it. I want to summarise by talking about three aspects of assessment. Your curriculum, in other words, what you're studying, remains the same. The assessment objectives remains the same. The way in which they're on that curriculum, the aspects of that curriculum that they're testing you on. What is different is the mode of assessment. And in this, when we don't know what the mode of assessment is to be, you have quite a lot of control in that mode of assessment. So any pieces that you do, including the work you do during your assessment week over the coming days, when Miss Remington will give more details about that, the more that you are able to explain to us the circumstances under which any piece of assessed work was taken, the more we're able to give credit for the things that you have been able to do. Give an example of that. If you did manage to complete something under something that really did reflect the exam conditions you would get in the sports hall, then please let us know. If that wasn't a possibility for you, no one's going to consider it a dishonesty if there were some different circumstances, because you're at home. It's not a sports hall with an invigilator walking around. But please try to show what you can do through that assessment in the best way you know how, and then inform your teachers which way you were able to do it. So I'll finish my remarks there. Ms. Stanley, I'm going to need to go from this end, but if there's been any questions or anything come through the chat that I can answer just before I have to go in about 5 minutes' time.
Thank you, Mr. John. There is nothing quite yet. We just have a question about UCAS, which I will address in a few minutes' time. But if anybody does have a question specifically for Mr. John, if you want to just send it over in the next minute or so. If that's not possible, or you'd like a little bit more time, then again, as I said at the beginning, please do remember that you can always send us an email and we can address things in our own time at a slightly more leisurely pace. Thank you very much. Mr. John, there is nothing at the moment.
Summarise, please be reassured. I'm absolutely confident that whatever grades will come in the end will be strong and will be reflective of your very, very considerable skills and ability. Let's be mindful then of what the actual educational development is going to be to make it a really worthwhile period of time.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Anna Rimington and I'm the Director of Learning for Key Stage 5. I'm going to follow up from what Nick was talking about and just kind of reiterate some of the practical points that you need to sort of be aware of over the next few weeks. Of course, the first thing that I want to do is just to reiterate his message around confidence. And reassurance that we're issuing for all of you. We are a really experienced team. We've been through this system before and in all the maelstroms, and I'd like to reassure you as well, and to reassure students particularly, that any kind of teacher assessed grade actually never comes from just one teacher. There's a very, very rigorous process of standardisation and moderation and scrutiny and monitoring. So that's something that we'll be reiterating with students all the way through. Okay, some practical points for you. There are fewer vocational exams happening for Year 13 over the next couple of weeks, but there are a couple for Year 13 applied scientists and also for the applied business students. I would just ask that if students are taking up the opportunity to sit those exams, if you could let Miss Lyons know on the email address. Maybe Laurie could put Linda's email address in the chat there just to remind people. So there are some January vocational exams still happening. As Nick has said, as soon as we have more practical information about how the summer exams, the system that's going to be put in place to replace them, will actually work, we of course will communicate with you as soon as we have the details on that. And that will be through a combination of we'll write to you, we'll put things in emails, we'll hold another briefing like this one, and try and update you and keep you informed all the way through the process. We welcome the point about trusting teachers and not an algorithm that was announced last week, and we await to see the details of how that will play out in practical terms and keep you up to speed with those things. Okay, I want to now address the topic of Year 13 mock exams. We did have scheduled 2 days of mock exams for A-level students, which was meant to be this Thursday and this Friday, the 14th and the 15th of January for Year 13. We have changed this mock period so that we're moving to an assessment week. And what that means for students who would have sat mock exams this Thursday and Friday is that assessments will still be taking place, but the timetable has been suspended. So they won't be sitting them in the same way over those 2 days for all sorts of obvious practical reasons. What we have asked subject teams to do is papers will be released to students no earlier than Thursday the 14th, but they will have a longer period of time that the paper will be released, and then they will be able to have to send the paper back to their individual teacher. Now, there is a bit of a mixed economy around this for all sorts of reasons around the kinds of assessments that different subjects are doing. For example, in Spanish and French, for example, there's a listening and so on. So there are sort of practical things that different subject teams have to work out. Some exams that Year 13s will be sitting will be kind of invigilated in some way during a lesson slot. Some exams and some subjects have decided that actually what they're going to do is release papers via Teams or an email, and then the students will have a time slot within which to send it back. So I don't want you to worry that there is a slightly different approach between one subject and another. That's discussions that's happened at faculty level, and your subject teachers will be the ones that will communicate with you, students, about how you are going to be doing your assessment. Okay, so in your lessons this week, lots of you know already, I think, about what you'll be doing for this assessment, but you will be getting details from your Year 13 teachers about what the when the assessment will be released, when you'll be doing it, and the time period that your teacher wants you to sit that, that assessment in. Okay, really important to understand as well that there will be other assessment opportunities for you further down the line. We have another assessment week penciled in for March the 8th. And remember, this is really different this time from the last lockdown when we had our last year 13s, when they all had to suddenly leave at the end of March. Last year it felt they were going and we were never going to see them again. And it was quite traumatic in that way. This is different. We really, really hope and expect that we will be able to. Well, okay. The other thing that seems different is that there is a reason, an agency, as Mr. Stokes used the word, Mr. John used the word, about actually being with your lessons. Things aren't over. Last time with year 13, we were actually instructed that anything that came after lockdown, we weren't allowed to take that into account at all when we were working out our assessed grades. This is a very, very different situation that we are in. So the message for students, of course, is keep attending your lessons, keep doing your assessments, keep submitting your work, because any system that comes in place in terms of your grades is going to be about proving something from a strong evidence base. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Stokes, and he's going to talk briefly about communication with your tutors. Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Stokes, if you can just, we're going to have to do a quick swizz and a change in terms of our chairs. Here we go.
Most of our tutors, if not all of them, are here as well today, so it's really, really nice to see you. Thank you very much. You can give them a little wave if you like.
Is this, can I talk? Yeah. Hello everyone. Yeah, I haven't got too much to say. Good to see you all. I'm looking at myself at the moment and I can see that I'm in desperate need of a shave. Sorry about not doing that. So before I actually start with regards to the communication, I won't be saying too much. I would like to say a massive, massive thank you to all the students, all the parents, all the staff that contributed to our food bank charity initiative that we did with regards to the Trussell Trust. We took down a hell of a lot of stuff before Christmas. I've never been to a food bank before, and I went home and it did affect me quite a lot, I have to say. I've never ever seen one. Now I've started to notice them in Camden and Islington and Hackney, the boroughs where I mostly go to. And I was saying to my wife, it's a real eye-opener, really sad. So again, thank you very, very much for everyone who contributed to that. Okay, with regards to communication, we're going to go back to the model we used last year with regards to the tutors sending out, well, it won't be an email, it'll be done on Teams this time. It was email last year, sending out a message from the tutor groups, from the year team every Monday. I think it's very, very important that the students and the parents, if they so wish, they read those messages. It became quite frustrating for us last year when we was writing these messages, we were sending them out, and then a week or so later, a student or even a parent would communicate with us and say, well, we didn't know this, and we say, well, look, if you actually responded to the emails. So it's really important that students read their emails, keep in contact with teams, and also the family bulletin, so they keep abreast of the information that we're sending out. I've got lots of different notes here all over the shop. Miss Remington and Mr. Johns have both alluded to, I'm much more cruder in my use of language. I think attendance is really, really important to lessons for the reasons that they've outlined. you know, not just for their education, but also for their well-being, to keep them occupied. Now, what we try to do with the weekly bulletin, the weekly message we send out lots of opportunities for students that they could sign up to various things. Last year, a number of them did. We would like that to increase for lots of reasons. We send out informations with regards to speakers for schools and various other things that they can sign up for, and some of them, you know, they did, and they find them very, very useful. Just got something from something called Chance Talent, a guy called Rob Cullis, who's putting on lots of different university-led talks and, you know, programs in the next couple of weeks, which we will send it out to the students this week. So it's really, it'd be really good if the students could sign up for some of these things, you know, not just because of their subjects. It doesn't have to be just subject related, but just for their, you know, their general knowledge, to get a feel what university might look like, and various other things that they might enjoy. Please keep us, continue to communicate with regards to, you know, attendance, any issues like bursary with Miss Lyons, and also Mr. Lew, who I know is going to talk in a moment about, you know, various other things. So, yeah, that's all I've got to say. Thank you very much. Back to you, Laura, yeah?
Thank you, Ron. Cheers, thank you. Just to follow on from what Ron said there about opportunities outside of school. So I think there are lots and lots of sort of institutions, companies, businesses, you know, as well as museums and things, who are offering sort of classes or sessions online. I do put a lot of those in the bulletin each week. So if you just keep an eye on the family bulletin each week, I will tend to put 3 or 4 things in that I think are sort of interesting opportunities that have come up that week for students to engage with. So I'm going to talk to you just about UCAS and about HE, about a few deadlines and things that have changed over the past week or so, and things that are still changing. After that, when I've finished and when Michael's spoken, we will look at the questions that have come through in the chat. I think the first thing to say about UCAS is, as some of you may have seen, in the middle of last week, UCAS did announce that they were moving the deadline back. So they have moved, the UCAS deadline has now moved from the 15th of January, which was this week, to the 29th of January. So they have given students an extra couple of weeks. This is to allow students who don't have perhaps the same access to information or electronic equipment or the internet, etc. at home, give them a little bit more time and make it a little bit more fair for them to get their UCAS applications in. We would like, where possible, students to get things in by the 15th if they can. Nearly all of our students have either submitted or are really making really good progress with our UCAS. We've sent off lots and lots. The vast majority of our UCAS applications have gone. There are about 10 students who've had their UCAS applications returned because it's finished, but it just has a small error that needs fixing. And then there are another small group of students who still need to finish and pay and send. But I will emphasize it is a fairly small group, and even the people who haven't finished yet are really well on with it. So where possible, we would like to get that just done and finished this week, so students have got have got it over and done with, and then they've got the opportunity to focus on other things after that. However, of course, if you do need to take advantage of the extra time that you've been given by UCAS, then you can do that. I'm here to help you with that. I work Monday to Thursday. Please do get in touch with anything that you need. Just carrying on with UCAS and talking a little bit more about deadlines, just so you are aware, UCAS, so the UCAS deadline is on the 29th of January. UCAS Extra, which is the UCAS service that opens for students who either haven't got any offers or have decided they don't want to take up any of their offers. That opens on the 11th of February. If that's something that you're interested in, get in touch if that applies to you. This year, slightly different to usual, the universities have until the 20th of May to make their offers to you. So to say, yes, they are offering you a place, or no, they are not. That is usually March, but this year they have until May. You as the student then have until the 10th of June to choose your firm and your insurance offer. So we will communicate these dates with you. They'll be in the bulletin, and we will let you know loads and loads of times. But just so you are aware, just keep in your mind, you have ages to make your decisions about UCAS. Lots of you already have offers, but please don't worry that you have to decide really quickly, that you've got to turn things around. You have a really long time to make these choices. And during this time, we would encourage you to take up things like virtual open days, to get in touch with universities, to use the materials that they're making available online for you to make your decision from those 5 courses that you have chosen. We have been asked a few questions, and about grades, about what universities are doing around offers regarding grades, whether they're sticking to their standard entry requirements or whether they're being more flexible. They told us last year, and they've continued to say this year, that they will be as flexible as they can, that universities will. They are aware, of course, of what's going on. It's affecting them hugely. And they are aware of the impact of it on students' education. And they are trying to be flexible however they can. That will apply this year, and it will also apply to students who, for example, have decided not to apply to UCAS this year. If they're doing Art Foundation, or they're taking a year out, so they're applying for 2022, universities will still bear that in mind. They will know that you got your grades during 2020, 2021. They will know the upheaval that you went through, and they will bear that in mind. At the moment, very few universities have come forward to say that they are officially changing their entry requirements. So very few have made a big announcement to say we are formally changing our entry requirements. But our experience from last year is that they were flexible in a lot of cases around their entry requirements. Our students are really good. You've all done a really good job of choosing universities that are aspirational and that are secure choices. We have no doubt whatsoever that you will get really good offers, and that universities will be fair about their offers, because we really found in the summer that they were universally fair and reasonable about the offers that they were making. So please don't be concerned about the impact of this on your chance of your university place. We will do what we can to make sure that you can access the course that you want to do, and the universities really are working hard at their end as well to make sure that you can access those courses. The next step, I suppose, in your journey, if you are planning to go to university this year, is student finance. Student finance is the method by which you apply to receive your loan to cover both your tuition fees and your maintenance costs while you are at university. So you get one loan for your fees, you get another loan which covers things like your rent and your living costs. Student finance usually opens in the middle of February, although it does change a little bit year by year. And they haven't told us yet this year when the exact opening date will be, but it will be at least a month, probably more than a month from now. We will let you know when it opens. And when student finance does open, we will provide plenty of information, and we'll provide some sessions, probably in this period 3 on a Monday, where we will show you how to access student finance, how to apply for student finance, how to make sure that you're getting the right amount of loan that you need to go to the right university and do the right course. So please don't worry at the moment about student finance. It is a little way off, and we will give you plenty of guidance when that does actually turn up. It is really important that you are available and you do attend these Monday period 3 sessions for things like student finance information, and just to keep in touch with us in case UCAS or the government do impose any other changes around deadlines. The final thing then, please don't feel left out if you are not applying to university this year. If you are a non-UCAS student, university's not for everyone. I suppose a word of caution around non-UCAS this year is mainly around apprenticeships and students who are interested in apprenticeships. There were, as you can expect, fewer apprenticeship opportunities available last year due to many companies having staff on furlough and not having the kind of the ability to take on apprentices. And we suspect that the same thing will happen this year, and that there will be fewer apprenticeship places, especially at the higher levels, than there have been in previous years. Apprenticeships are already quite challenging in terms of they're quite competitive, and they can already be quite difficult to access. So it is a real shame that we're probably going to see an impact on the number of places available. This isn't to say that you shouldn't be applying for apprenticeships at all. You absolutely should. But we just want everyone who is in that position, everyone who is planning on taking up an apprenticeship or is interested in taking up an apprenticeship, please be aware that it will not be easy this year. And if you can, please have some kind of backup, because it is possible that the places that you want, in the industries that you want, at the level that you want, may not be available to you. In terms of support for apprenticeships, I'm here to help, as is Lindsay Evans. Most of you know Lindsay. She's our independent careers advisor. She works on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and she's continuing to work with us remotely on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So she is available via email. She's available via phone. If you find an apprenticeship that you are interested in, or if you just want to talk through your possibilities, your opportunities around apprenticeships or around non-university pathways, then you can get in touch with me, or you can get in touch with Lindsay, and we will do everything we can to support you with those. My recommendation at the minute is, if it works for you, that UCAS is a backup, because the situation around things like apprenticeships is so unusual and so possibly so difficult this year. But if that is not for you, and that is not a possibility, please do get in touch with us, and we will do everything we can to support you with your pathways once you leave us in the summer. Keep in touch as well. Let us know what you are up to. If you are applying for things, if you're applying for apprenticeships, if you've got positions, if you've got places, let us know. And do, because we obviously can't see you face to face to ask, so please do let us know. Same with university offers as well. Drop us an email if you've got something you're really proud of. Please let us know. We love to hear from you. I'm going to hand over to Mr. Lou, to Michael then now, please. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Laura. Hi, everyone. There's only two topics I wish to touch on today, and the first one is your mental health and your physical well-being. We're in another lockdown, and I guess it's a really important topic that we need to discuss, but also make everyone else aware. I just want to remind you that as Key Stage 5 staff, we're all here to support you. And if you are feeling some sort of stress, anxiety, or to do with schoolwork or UCAS, then please do get in touch. We're here to support. I also wish to request from you guys to check up on each other as well. Since there is no social interaction, it is our duty to care for one another, and at the same time, just check in on them. And if anything is of concern, do alert us, and then that way we can follow up also. The third option is obviously to reach out to us directly. The Key Stage 5 team are all working, so we're all approachable, and you can email us directly. The second I wish to discuss is your digital access. As Ms. Stanley mentioned, obviously, because we're online now, if you're finding any difficulties reaching
I think Michael's experiencing his own digital access issues at that point.
we have just lost Michael for the moment.
The key point is, if anyone is still struggling with either access to Teams and lessons, or hardware and digital devices and laptops and so on, please let us know, because we will be able to and will assist you with those things. It's really important that no one is blocked from accessing the learning at the moment. Okay, it's 11 minutes past 12, and we've got a Year 12 assembly to do in 4 minutes time. So I'm just going to check with Laura whether there's any quick questions that have come through before we need to say goodbye to everybody.
Yep, I'm just popping Michael's email in the chat. It was just requested. And if you have any issues around Teams and access and things,
Yeah.
please do get in touch with Michael. His email is coming up there. We had a question about UCAS, which I hope I've answered. If I haven't answered that in enough detail, please do get in touch with me. Any other questions about UCAS, please come through to me. Last couple, the first one is just about exams, Anna. Where exams aren't taking place in a class time slot, should students be trying to do them under exam conditions? Or I'm guessing
it will be very much take your guidance from your teachers. So, for example, I was talking to Mr. Owen and Miss Osborne about the psychology, and they were saying actually they don't necessarily need it to be done in that way, because actually some of it's about key terms that they can't guarantee would be done in exam. If you've got access to Google or whatever, it wouldn't really be required for it to be done in exam conditions. So they're slightly shifting their assessment. So my answer is, some teachers will be wanting you to do something in exam conditions and they will set that up with you. Other assessments may be done in a slightly different way, and that's fine too, because everybody's had to sort of take their assessment and adapt it for our circumstances.
Lovely. This is actually a really lovely question. Is there anything, or how can the school community support the school and teachers? It's a really nice thing to ask.
Mr. Stokes is shouting cake.
Yeah.
He's always telling me he's on a diet. So,
Yeah.
So no, thank you very much. It's really nice to get nice feedback. Actually, to be honest, the best sort of way you can support us, because I know we are all about minimising, people coming in and so on, is actually if your child has had a really good bit of feedback or a really good lesson, or somebody has done something for them, a little email to the person just makes a massive difference, because we all went into teaching because we like communicating with students, and actually at the moment we can't do that. So it's really nice to get some feedback, either from students or from parents. So do that to teachers. That would be great. Thank you. Okay. Any last things from you for the chat, Laura? Any final questions? Do let us know. We've got 1 minute left before we.
Just reiterating that assessments do vary subject by subject. So if you have questions about an individual assessment and how that will take place, please get in touch with teachers directly, or ask a student to get in touch with their teacher in the department to ask them how that will be administrated, because everything will vary department by department. And that is it. We are done.